Well, hello and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Una Duncan, and today we are talking to one of our favorite guests of all time, award winning psychologist, couples counselor, and sex therapist, Dr. Cheryl Fraser. So, for this episode, I put the call out to you, the listeners, for questions to ask Cheryl about sex and love in midlife. And guess what? You all sent me pretty much the exact same question. Check it out.
Ready to break up with your bullshit? I mean, all those excuses that are keeping you stuck. Because you have one life to live. And if you're not having fun yet, then that's a problem, dude. Welcome to Goals, Grit, and some woo-woo shit. The podcast where you learn about the habits of kicking ass at life. Whether you want to get ripped, get rich, or just get high on life, this is the place to be. Here's your host, best-selling author and feel-good expert, Una Duncan.
Dr. Cheryl Fraser, I am so excited to have you back.
Such a pleasure. I have missed you. You're my favorite redhead. Okay, I don't know many redheads, but if I knew a billion redheads, you'd still be my favorite.
Oh, thank you. What a compliment. I appreciate that. Okay, so listen, Cheryl, you know what's so funny? I put out the call for some questions for you, and I was really open. I said anything about sex and love, especially in midlife. And I got a bunch of answers. And almost every question was the same. It was the same freaking question. I wonder if you can guess. What do you think the main question was that I got?
Oh, I can guess a few in that spectrum because I love to tell people my three most important words I ever say to any member of a couple is you are normal. We think we're so uniquely broken. One would be I'm in love with them. I'm not really in love with them anymore. I don't feel the sexual attraction. Can we recreate attraction? It could be around being bored. And is it possible to fall back in love or recreate attraction? Given your audience, it might have been more specific sexuality questions about loss of desire or orgasms changing as we get old. Or it might be, I don't know.
You've already hit it.
Yeah,
you've already hit it.
I don't know.
Yeah,
These are the biggies.
Dude, it was the exact same question over and over again. It was about loss of desire. Dude. Okay, so the first thing I want to ask you is how much does desire just naturally drop during perimenopause and menopause? Like what should we be expecting is just normal baseline? This is just what happens.
Well, let me begin by taking you way back till way back, sister, here to Vancouver Island. I'm like 11, 12 years old and I discover my Snoopy electric toothbrush. And this becomes my first sex toy. And it was such a joy. I mean, it was a great little vibrator. They say, a dog is man's best friend. Girl's best friend. And I say this, partly because it's funny, but also because I really want to lay the foundation here that pleasure is a natural response. Enjoying sensual and sexual pleasure, unless we've been traumatized or taught to be away from that. But if we're on the desert island, what was that cheesy movie back in the day with like Brooke Shields or
Blue
whatever?
Lagoon?
Yeah.
Highly sketchy now. She was so young.
Sketchy.
Yuck.
But if we take that away for the moment, if literally two human beings, young beings, children grow up on an island together, they're going to eventually start sensually exploring each other in a really beautiful, guilt-free, ideally trauma-free way, because sensual pleasure is a natural birthright. I want to start there. Fast forward through Dr. Cheryl's, interesting love lives over this lifetime so far. I was blessed, Una, and lucky. And maybe it started because I masturbated reasonably early. I didn't have a lot of hangups around that. I had some. I grew up in a culture. But I had a very, very easy orgasm response and lots of desire. That's the key. Lots of desire. I generally had a higher so-called sex drive than my male partners. I'm a serial monogamy girl, so I've had a few significant long-term relationships with wonderful sex with men I loved. That's my model. I like to share my body and my sensuality with someone I love and trust. It's what works for me. All sorts of different models are great too. But I never had any difficulty with desire through my 40s. Right through my 40s, my early 50s, I'd be the one getting a little itchy after 3, 4, 5, 6 days. I'm like, hey, it's been a while. Come on, baby. And it was such a naturally easy aspect of this body. 52 years old, which in Canada anyway is the national average for when a woman enters menopause, defined in this context as 12 consecutive months without a menstrual period. I was right on the button, one of the few ways I was normal. And within 6 months, it's like my sexual desire was not just dimmed like a dimmer switch. It was pretty much turned off. There was a dimming factor that started to become very apparent, is that I just didn't feel what's called spontaneous desire. Feeling a little frisky, feeling a little horny, feeling a little mentally or physically intrigued. Like, oh, that might be kind of nice too, with yourself or with a partner. That dialed down pretty quickly. But then, to my absolutely aghast amazement, the orgasms themselves went from what I'd always enjoyed, which is a pretty high, intense orgasm. If we call 10 like a really strong, powerful, pleasurable orgasm, like 8 to 9, 8 to 10, almost all the time. Reasonably easy to achieve orgasm, much to the delight of certain partners, because like, oh, this is so easy. I'm like, don't get used to it. If we're not together long term, this may be a little bit of a more responsive body than you're used to. But I was really taken aback because, and I don't mean, from a place of like arrogance or cockiness. I had just had this easy, beautiful desire and easy, beautiful orgasmic life for 45 years or something like that, 40 anyway. And for it to change, and for it to change quite dramatically and quite quickly, was a shocker. Fast forward now, I'm 61. I know, check me out, not too bad. We live in a rainforest. Una and I will never wrinkle. We'll never need the products. I wouldn't do them anyway. But, we live in a rainforest. We say moist. Anyway, I digress. Just saying, just having some fun. I was really, I was mourning. I was mourning the change because, again, it wasn't arrogance or, oh, I'm a sex expert or, oh, it's always been easy. I was aware that desire changes for a lot of us female-bodied people and male-bodied people as well. But I didn't expect an abrupt and drastic drop, maybe like a waning over my 60s and so on. So here I am at 61. And sexual desire, in terms of spontaneous sexual desire, like feeling frisky, horny, turned on, again, in either body or mind or both, is close to non-existent now. Close to non-existent. So circling back, and I wanted to give that context for people before I jumped into the answer to these incredible questions to your incredibly wonderful and motivated listening audience. Is it like, what is normal during perimenopause and menopause? Is it typical? Is there something wrong? Am I unique? Is it simply just something we got to expect and give up and let go of? Those are a bunch of questions around this topic. So how typical is it? I can't give you accurate medical statistics up to date right now, but certainly it is very common. I can't put a statistic on that, but if we don't hold me to it at the moment, probably 70 to 80 to 90% of women or female-bodied people will say, I don't have the same kind of horniness that I used to have. Big caveat, especially to my sisters listening. They're like, hang on, I never had much desire. I wasn't someone who had a lot of natural desire. I could go months without sex in a loving relationship and feel quite content. You are all part of this circle of sisters. So wherever your natural desire, so to speak, through your life was, it seems to decline a lot for the majority of women during perimenopause and menopause. And now, you've probably had experts on this show talking about the hormonal reasons, et cetera. Those are incredibly important. But also, especially given your field, Una, in fitness and well-being and feeling good about how we feed our body and good about how we move our body and feeling good in our body at any size, that we feel good that this is a healthy and vital variation of who me and this body can be at this age, that is usually lacking. Not everybody's in your program. Not everybody's getting the kind of nurturing and ass kicking and joy and seriousness and really deep training and hope and motivation you and some other people in the field give people. A lot of women are out there just looking at the body, feeling in the body, feeling logy, and whether it's, they go towards a really thin kind of bony aging body, or whether they go towards a plump and plumper type of aging body, the aches, the pains, body image in our psychology, how we feel about how we look and are, body image in terms of our body feeling uncomfortable, back pain, neck pain. I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little graphic. Well, I'm not sorry at all. How much do you want to go down on your guy if you're heterosexual, give him a blowjob when your neck hurts? Like, for real. When your knees hurt, when laying in either partner on top, you on top, whatever position is uncomfortable, not to mention the changes to our actual vulva and vagina in terms of the thinning of the membranes. And again, I never had any sexual pain or discomfort really. Pretty good, pretty easily lubricated. If you're not great commercial lubes from a high-end place are wonderful. Don't get them at your local drugstore. They're a bit goopy and stuff. Get good ones. Spend the money. They'll last longer. But when your natural lubrication dries or becomes drier, definitely use a lube. But even with that, as so many of your listeners are going, right now, I can feel it, even though we're not live at the moment.
Yeah.
They're like, it feels uncomfortable when I'm penetrated now.
Right.
Either raw, sharp, pain, like a sharpness because of those thinning of those membranes, as you're well acquainted with, meaning you're just an expert in all these things yourself. And sometimes a change in the tilting of the cervix, a change in the body that we used to fit together like peanut butter and chocolate. And now it's like, the very same ish penis, meaning your body, if you're heterosexual, your male-bodied person, his body changes too, can feel uncomfortable. Oh, wait, then we've got the psychology around all sorts of stuff we might be carrying. Even modern smart women like all of us, like, well, sex is more of a game for the young. I don't think we actually believe that. But it used to be easier and our ass was tighter and we were hornier or not. And if we weren't as horny, we were more up for the game and to get turned on. There are so many multifactorial reasons, from our image of ourselves to our thinking to our beliefs about aging sex. I mean, come on. When we were teenagers or 20 and you saw people over 50 kissing, you wanted to barf in your mouth a little bit.
Ew, yeah.
And to heck with all of us little nerds, because we shouldn't have felt that way. We should have been like, wow, that's awesome. I can look forward to a lifelong sexuality.
Actually, you know what? I've got a funny story about that. So, so yesterday was my anniversary, and oh my gosh, Cheryl, you're going to give me a slap on the wrist. I forgot about it. Completely forgot. I know. Last year was our 15-year anniversary, so we really blew it out. This year, I did not remember until my sweet, sweet husband came home with a bouquet of flowers, and I'm actually getting my IUD replaced tomorrow, and he went to town to pick it up at the pharmacy, and he put the IUD in the bouquet. And so we were laughing about it, and my son said, "What's that?" And we explained what an IUD is, and he went, "Ew, you guys are having sex? Don't you like break a knee or something?" He said, "Don't you break a knee?" Which is so, so I was like, wait, A, do we have to review sex? B, how old do you fucking think we are? Yeah.
Well, hopefully, as embarrassed and grossed out as he may be, he got an education.
Yeah.
And he's aware that this glorious part of being alive can last a lifetime. But it is not easy anymore.
Yeah. We've covered a million reasons why desire might go down. It could be a hormonal thing. It could be, a psychological thing. It could be that it's just a little bit less comfortable physically. I mean, we didn't even touch the stress of being in midlife or the fact that maybe the relationship itself might be feeling a little bit stale. So
or worse.
Or worse. So there's so many reasons it could be. And when I hear a story like yours, when you said I was sexual, I was responsive, and then it shut off like a light. If someone is experiencing that and they're like, whoa, I am not ready to retire sexually. How do they know, oh, this is a stress thing. This is an I'm not sleeping thing. This is my husband's fucking pissing me off thing. This is a hormonal thing. So I should get on HRT. Where do we start with fixing this? And maybe you're going to correct me and say it's not a problem to be fixed.
It is a difficult situation to be worked on and cultivated for sure. So I'm just reframing a little bit, a problem to be fixed. It's a problem to be fixed or worked on, because what's the alternative? We accept it and go, okay, I guess, people don't have sex, and I guess that's the way it is. It can be the way it is. It can be typical, which is called normal. And I gotta split hairs here. It is normal in our culture to be obese. It is normal to have or be heading towards diabetes. It's normal to be in credit card debt and overspending. Normal in terms of statistically typical. We shouldn't allow it to be normal, as in, it's just normal. Mm-hmm. I'm obese and ill and in debt. We should seek to change these things. So it might be typical or normal to have lower little sex drive and a change in our sexuality, but that doesn't mean we need to accept it. I want to come back to one of the ways, and thank you for such a great question. One of the ways to start figuring out what set of features and factors may be influencing me and my sexual responsivity at this time, whether you're 20 or 83, is to masturbate, to have some time where no one's home, you're relaxed, have a hot bath, do what you need to do to get the to-do list tucked away. And so you feel fairly mentally relaxed, reasonably mentally relaxed, put on music, whatever works for you, get a toy, use your fingers, fantasy, whatever you like, bit of erotica, whatever you like, to explore one thing first, which is it easy or difficult or extremely difficult for me to even become turned on and feel sexual pleasure when a lot of the other factors have been removed? So it's like an experiment with removing a lot of variables, right?
Yeah.
And am I able to orgasm if that's something I have been able to do historically, at least reasonably often? And if so, what is the quality or intensity or like pleasure level of said orgasm? So 0 to 10, 0 being you don't come at all. 1, 2, 3 being it was a bit like a achoo, like it was a release. It was there. It had a little bit of pleasure to it. It wasn't unpleasant, but it was very much just like a little release. Was it mid 4, 5, 6 where there was a fair bit of pleasure? There was a bit of buildup and it felt like a bigger release? Or was it a higher level of, wow, that was actually pretty intense? This will start to give you a little bit of an idea, and you can practice this more than once. What is going on for me in terms of sexual responsivity, in terms of how pleasure feels in the body these days, in terms of how orgasm feels in the body these days? Because if that is low, or non-existent, or in my case, like quite dramatically reduced over, I don't know, something like 6 months or so, a year maybe, but from, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, woohoo, to just a small orgasm, then something's going on at the physiological level as well. Hormones. You mentioned HRT. For anyone who isn't sure what that means, I'm sure you all are. Hormone replacement therapy, progesterone and estrogen, for some of us testosterone, can be prescribed by a sexual medicine expert, a really good naturopath who has studied this, or your MD here in Canada. Anyway, some are reluctant, many aren't very well trained, and many may not be up to date on it. That's okay. Seek until you find a practitioner that is helpful. If you're in Una's community, which I know all of you are, I'm sure on your Facebook feeds and other places, you could share resources with each other, depending where you're living and where you're coming from. I eventually went that route, although I was very opposed to it because I had old misinformation. So I want to clear this up because this may be true for some women listening. When I was young, my mother was given a dramatic hysterectomy for a medical reason. And the doctors made a mistake and they didn't put her on any hormone treatment at all. And she was, I think, around 30 or so. And she went into a catastrophic depression based on her hormones being completely hooped. And eventually they put her on hormone therapy, but it was the old hormone therapy 50 years ago or more, and it did her worse than good. So when I was having all this fatigue and my sexuality has changed, I went to an excellent MD and naturopath, both that I knew, specialized in women's health. And I was looking for supplements for energy. Let's check out the thyroid. Let's check out everything else that's going on. And she said, Cheryl, I think you should consider hormones. And to me, it was like she said, I think you should consider, drinking poison to feel better. I'm like, no, I'm not interested in that at all.
Right.
That's not why I'm here. Let's look at B vitamins and all the other great stuff.
Yeah.
Eventually, she introduced me to the newer research to show the benefits of HRT, the benefits of being on those products, the slightly protective mechanism. There's slightly less breast cancer, it looks like now, slightly less cervical cancer, it looks like now, slightly protective against Alzheimer's, which when we think about it, from a caveman evolutionary perspective, we were supposed to die when we were like 30. Now we might live the kind of lives we're living in our 60s, 70s, and 80s, where people are mountain biking and doing triathlons and traveling the world. Our physical bodies dry up far earlier than our vitality and lifestyle and wanting to be in the world does. It makes sense that the body can use that support. So I'm not an advocate. I'm not giving medical advice. I don't have a medical degree. I was accepted to med school, but I actually decided it looked boring and I went into psychology instead for the deep work of life and soul. Yeah. So definitely try a masturbation exercise several times, as relaxed as you can, and get curious. And this will be difficult to get curious without the sadness. without the regret, without the, oh, I'm finding it difficult to reach orgasm and it used to be easy. It'll be very easy for the mind to go into regret and grieving and wishing it were different. Those are completely natural, but they don't help. They really don't help. There's a time for us to, I think, grieve, regret, and wish what used to be easy was still easy. I went through some of that when my body changed so much. But if our movement forward is it used to be better, I want that. And our bodies, physiologies, psychologies, and lives are teaching us that maybe we won't, other than occasion where the body goes, woohoo, we won't necessarily get back to where it was easy. Then it needs a new psychology. And this is super important, everybody. There needs a mindset shift around that was then and this is now. It's okay to take time to grieve. Write a letter to your old sexual self, whatever feels natural. And that's not a one and done. It'll come up. It still comes up for me now. Me and my sweetie were like, damn, we miss the old days. But then and here we are now. And we'll talk a bunch more about that coming up right here and now about what to do about it. But we may want to cover a little more ground before we get to that.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to follow up and sort of say, okay, so say someone does the masturbation exercise. So let's say someone does that exercise and they realize, oh, I'm able to do this on my own. It doesn't seem to be a physiological problem. What would be step 2 there? If they're like, okay, I'm cool on my own, but once I get with my partner on a random whatever, I got nothing.
Okay, great question. I love this. This is a slightly different line of questioning, and I love it. I think we're opening things up in a more deep way because you're so good at what you do as well. So if you masturbate and your orgasms are quite good, the desire is there, then you know a few things. First of all, when you're relaxed, reasonably anyway, when you set the scene, when you have time and you're not rushed, maybe you're not fatigued, because probably you wouldn't choose to do this exercise when you're dead dog tired. You'll probably do it when you feel a little more vital, a little more awake, a little more, more vitality in the system. Then we've got to look at, and I don't want to blame it all on the relationship or by any means on the partner, but we've got to look at what is the difference between you and I, whether you're LGBTQ plus, trans, whomever you love and however you love. If you're a female-bodied person listening to this, we're talking about clitorises and orgasms. You can swap this for your genitalias and you can swap this for your beloved. All rainbows welcome in my world. And I'm sure in Una's as well. But I'll, for the most part, use heteronormative language as we talk just to kind of keep it clear and then apply it to your own situation, please, all you beautiful people listening. So it's kind of easy to jump to a conclusion, well, then I'm just not attracted to you anymore. This is a very dangerous brain worm, a really dangerous brain worm. It's not necessarily entirely inaccurate, but all too often, I'm not attracted to you anymore turns into maybe I should look elsewhere. And I don't mean proportionally 90% of people then start scrolling whatever you scroll and trying to find, and I'm going to be a bit crass, but I know that's allowed here, and trying to find a fuck buddy. If you find a fuck buddy, I don't recommend you do. It's catastrophic for your relationship and often for you in the end. But, everybody needs to do what they need to do, but think 3 times or more, or write me and I'll try to help you think what's really going on here, or join my program or whatever. Let's help get to the bottom of it. But it's not that I'm not attracted to you, except ouchie, it's also that I'm not attracted to you. Mm-hmm. Familiarity is not a great aphrodisiac, right? I love salmon. I love salmon with some beautiful mayonnaise and soy sauce on top. And it's one of my favorite things to consume. And because I live on the ocean and my husband and my dad fish, I get beautiful salmon. But if I ate salmon every day, I wouldn't enjoy salmon every day. It's such an obvious example, but familiarity creates boredom with something you used to really, really enjoy. Novelty is an aphrodisiac. Novelty is a turn on. Feeling alive, feeling different. And this is where the temptation towards an emotional or a physical encounter or affair with another can really raise its head and catch us really off guard. Let's say we're at a super cool conference next week, as we often do, with really cool thought leaders and amazing people we admire and find interesting, and they got super sexy brains. And we find ourselves perhaps feeling some attraction, intellectual and or sexual or physical. And we're like, man, if I wasn't married and choosing monogamy and a person of integrity, I would be tempted. In fact, damn it, that means I am tempted. Well, yay us, because we noticed. Yay us, because maybe we can enjoy that feeling of temptation privately without acting on it or messing the other person's life up by voicing it, but just saying, wow, it kind of feels good that there's life in the old girl yet. And then maybe we can get back to our hotel room and text our partner, because warning is a good idea, and say, hey, baby, I'm feeling frisky. I want to have some phone sex with you. Because if we're just like, if you phone them and say that, they're like, hey, the dog threw up. It generally doesn't go that well unless you kind of, let them know, set the stage a little bit. What am I saying here? I'm saying to recreate sort of a passionate attraction to our partner when our own sex drive has lowered a lot, at least in terms of the dynamic, when we're tired, when we're stressed, when honestly, and I will own it, I don't love that I need to own this, getting in my comfies with a dog and a cat on my lap, snuggling up with my sweet man and watching a show is often feeling way more enticing at the end of a long day.
Sure.
Freaking tired.
Yeah.
So, whereas before, when I was younger, like even in my 40s, we met at 48 and 49, for goodness sakes, and we had wild sex for 3 or 4 years. I would way rather have sex than watch a show, and then I'd watch a show after. So a lot of what I do in my deeper work is, because if there was a quick answer, we'd have got to it yet already, is I help couples really look at all aspects of their relationship, what I call the passion triangle. We've talked about that in previous episodes we could link to here on this great podcast. But very quickly, the first one I call intimacy. I don't mean sex. It's communication, conflict resolution, having each other's back, supporting each other's hopes and dreams, working on the minutia together in what I call relationship incorporated, but also stepping outside of that for big picture. It's the real relationship work most people think about doing, perhaps when they think about going to a couples therapist. And that's usually all that's done in couples therapy, which is why I developed a different model, although for years I was a couples therapist. The second side of what I call the 3 keys to great relationship, or the passion triangle, I call thrill. This is where we date each other, we seduce each other, we have fun together, we bring home flowers with an IUD in it yesterday for your Thanksgiving. We don't forget our anniversary, Una. We make the effort. Right. We romance each other the way we were so great at it when we were dating. We thought, we planned, we lit each other up. We tried to think of surprises. I just took my sweetie, he just turned 60. And we were just in Vancouver a couple days ago. We went to the Lion King Broadway show, because we both love Broadway. Don't judge us. And we also spent
no judgment here.
We spent 6 weeks in Africa earlier this year. So we're at the Lion King and we're remembering Africa. That's thrill. It's planning those things. And then the next night we went to Stanley Park, the beautiful big park in Vancouver for people not local. And there was the outdoor comedy festival with some of my favorite comics. I'm a huge stand-up fan. Mike Birbiglia was there. John Mulaney was there. It was amazing.
Oh, fun.
So that's thrill. That's the kind of thing I would have planned when I was dating and romancing my guy, and he for I. But we still do that. We're pretty good at that. The third side is what today is mostly all about. The third side of a great relationship is, I call it sensuality. And I mean sexuality, but I also mean all the bits in between, like cuddling, like kissing, like sharing a deep 3-breath hug once a day. Let me assign this to everybody listening. It's as simple as it sounds. And it's one of the 3 most popular things I teach in my 12-week immersion couples program is this simple thing. Stand facing your partner. Embrace deeply, chest to chest. In my case, he's a lot taller than me, but you make it work. And you breathe in together. And you exhale together. And then you do it twice more. Now, Una would know right away. Everybody listening, I want you to answer this in your head before she shares the answer. What happens when we quietly and deeply breathe in 3 times while contacting another human that we trust? What would happen, Una? What's happening in the body?
Your parasympathetic nervous system gets activated and you sort of regulate with your partner. Yeah. Your heartbeats match, I believe. Is that true?
Exactly. They can. So anyone who needs a refresher, parasympathetic nervous system is the calm down system. Speaking of Africa, after the zebras run in terror away from a hyena or a lion, and unfortunately Fred gets caught, but I survive. A moment or two later, they're back eating the grass looking calm because their parasympathetic nervous system brings them back down. Our human system does the same, usually not that quick. Usually takes us 20 to 30 minutes, but we could talk about that another time. Una knows this intimately. The other thing that happens when we have some heart contact, so chest to chest or head on chest, depending on your heights, it can also activate the vagus nerve. Again, something Una would be very familiar with, but this helps us feel a sense of connection and safety and calm. Oh my goodness. What am I talking about? I'm talking about a 3-breath hug. Why am I talking about it? Because I'm talking about the third of 3 major aspects of relationship, which is our sensual and sexual life. Now, because now we're talking about what can we do to fix it? And I said, well, if there was a quick answer, I would give it, I would practice it, I would sell it, and I'd be a billionaire. What I know is a slow, methodical, and it takes quite a bit of work, just like your field, sweetheart. Someone wants to tone, someone wants to weight loss, someone wants to feel better and more vital in their energetic system. You know, Una, that if they do the things you teach, if they do them consistently or consistently-ish for X amount of months or a year, they will effect fairly dramatic change. Effort in, effort out. Same as relationship overhaul work. If I work with a couple, and I do this a lot in my programs, I get a lot of people who are really struggling, and I get people that are okay, like they're not looking to break up or have an affair. They love their sweetheart, kind of that roommates, not lovers, running around doing all the busy work thing. I don't jump into fixing sex. I don't jump into desire. I've got to make sure we've got fundamental skills in communication and how to be less nasty to each other and how to have more fun and how to make each other feel important and not be boring and never talk and feel unheard and feeling lonely. We do a lot of that work leading up to the sexuality and sensuality part. So what can you start doing now? Because I don't want to be a tease. What you can start doing now is what we've already started today, which is to start really thinking about what is my sexual responsivity these days? What kind of things turn me on, at least hypothetically? Would I like to, things as simple as, do I want to make love at all these days? Be dead honest. No, there's just nothing there. Is it important enough to me and or my relationship and or my partner and I together that we want to make it a study? Is the weight loss important enough? Is the muscle building important enough? Is this important enough that I'm willing to do some work? Because the longer I stick around it used to be so easy. It used to be so great. And I'm not being pejorative to any of us. I feel those feelings too. But then I'm like, and now it is. Now I'm 61 and he's 60 and XYZ are factors. What do we do with that now? One of the things I get the couples that I work with to do, if they're currently having sex ever, because I'm going to get to sexless in a minute. If they're currently having sex ever, maybe once a month or something, maybe it's kind of mediocre, they kind of do it out of duty or because one person feels a bit frisky, I want them to start scheduling sensual encounters together. Listen to how I phrased that. I did not say scheduling sex, which can certainly be part of it. I said scheduling a sensual encounter together, because a sensual encounter, the way I'm going to define it right here, is something that has a quality of eroticism to it, but doesn't necessarily go to full sex. Because I said I was going to bring this in, about 30 to 40% of long-term couples aren't making love at all. They're in a clinically sexless or very low sex relationship. Yeah. Most important thing I ever say, Una, because it's not talked about. It's not understood. People who haven't had sex in months or years aren't telling their friends. They're not asking their friends for advice. They're ashamed. So I like to put it out there so everybody listening that is having little or no sexual contact with their partner and everybody else thinks you've got a great relationship, and in lots of ways you do, you're not alone, you're not broken, and you are typical. You are
I
normal
remember you saying this last
in a lot
time
of
and it blew
ways.
my mind, and I'm remembering it again and it still
Yeah.
blows my mind. 30 to
Yeah.
40%. Yeah.
Yeah, it is huge. So when I work with couples, I have to start where they are. Some of my couples are making love twice a week. It's just kind of boring. It's what I call nipple, nipple, crotch, good night. It's pretty repetitive. They like it. But I touch you here, you touch me there, and we go to sleep. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Vegan meatloaf isn't bad, but you get tired of it if you have it all the time. Can't we have
Right.
more of a, gorgeous vegetarian curry something or other instead? So I ask couples to start planning a sensual encounter starting where they are, just to be really clear here. So if you're not making love at all, I'm not going to say plan to have intercourse or oral sex in a week. That's way too big of a jump. There's probably psychological stuff in the way, meaning a lot of hurt and resentment on one person's part who'd like to be sexual and got turned down a lot of guilt and sense of failure in a person who did the turning down, the arguments that we've now stopped having. We just don't talk about it anymore. So for me to say, go make love with your partner this Thursday would be setting people up to fail. And that's not my MO and it's not yours. But what I will do is help that couple define what a sensual encounter that feels emotionally safe and attainable looks like for the two of them. And that might involve laying, snuggling in bed with your PJs on, but really spooning and really cuddling and maybe kissing a little bit, with or without tongue, because that might feel too intimate and too intense. And we've got this huge wall around our sensuality. For another couple, it might be, we're comfortable being naked. Great. Have a shower together, soap each other up, lay in bed naked, caress your bodies a little bit. If it feels better, you could cover your bathing suit areas, or say, nipples and breasts and bums and anuses and penises and testes are off limits for now. What I want people to do, and I help them build a plan, the ones that are low or no sex, moving sexless to sensual, where they move gradually forward. The same would build any behavior change plan, right? Moving toward where they may be ready to try oral sex or intercourse, etc., more overt sexual activity. For the 60-ish% of couples in my programs or who I work with that are making love at least some of the time, we identify for them things like, and questions we're not asking ourselves, really, most of us, when do I like to make love now? Maybe you always used to be a morning girl, but you've got low cortisol in the morning and you feel like you have the flu for the first 2 hours. Well, you probably don't want to make love then. And that might be when your partner's used to you wanting to make love. Are you more of an evening person? Oh, hell no. End of the day, my brain is fried. I'm thinking of the to-do list. I like to unwind with a silly show or a book or whatever anybody listening's jam is. So evening might not be the best time. Well, darling, afternoon delights are so underrated. There's this cheesy 70s song everybody should go listen to now. But if you're able with your partner to carve out some time in the afternoon, if that works for both of your energies, great. If mornings work, great. If Sunday afternoon is the prime time because the kids are out and you've done the chores and it's a relaxing time. I know I'm going on and on about this, Una, and do I do that randomly? I don't. This level of detail of figuring out, if I'm going to set myself up to work out, it helps if I figure out the more optimal times where I'm more likely to keep that commitment and follow it through. If I'm going to set a time fraught with some emotional landmines and some hurt and some, I don't really want you to see my body in full light these days, we've got to say, hey, this is important. We want to move forward to a new way of having desire together. We want to move forward to a new way of being sensual and or sexual in time together. And it's going to take some planning and some efforts. So let's set ourselves up for a more successful encounter and then build on it. Some couples, they get to where they're just avoiding actually having sex and they're comfortable enough. I'm like, just basically go have sex. If it's mediocre, I don't care. Let's get that over with because
Right,
it's
break the
become
seal.
this gigantic thing. Yeah.
As you were talking, there was two things that struck me. One, as always, how similar it is to health and wellness, and I appreciate the attention to detail because it really can be the difference between having shoes that don't scratch the inside of your foot or a door so that the kids don't come in or the right music or doing it at a time that whatever, the dinner's already done, whatever it is, like these little niggly things can end up being the make or break for you to do or not do an incredibly important habit such as exercise. The other thing that I was wondering about is, so I pictured you talking about this with a client, and Cheryl, tell me if I got this wrong, but I remember you telling me that mismatch in libido is like the most common problem that couples come to you with. Is that true?
It's one of the very common ones, as you might think. One of us wants sex, one of us doesn't.
Yeah, and so I'm wondering about the one who doesn't and what they might think of this plan. So the classic case that I hear over and over again is that the male partner is looking for more sex. The woman partner just feels like she could not possibly get in the mood because she's exhausted, overwhelmed, feels resentful of the man for not helping out around the house. And so I just pictured you presenting this plan to that couple and the woman being like, "Fuck yeah, I don't want to. Like, I don't want to. I'm pissed."
Yeah, which is why I don't present it till the latter third of the course, because we've gone through a whole bunch of communication stuff, talking about what we're pissed about how, division of labor, the fact that you, not necessarily focusing on sex, but learning how to talk about tough stuff, learning how to do it well. And we build up so they've got some of those skills before we get to talking about sex. But I also need to, and I'm happy to do so, bust the old trope that, like all old tropes, comes from some accuracy. I work with close to as many heterosexual couples, mostly in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and some 70s, where it's the woman who wants more sex than the guy. So, that is a very common presentation. And I think it's partly because men aren't talking about not wanting to have sex because they're ashamed of it. And this is one of those more hidden secrets. Whereas, again, it's a cliche. There's probably some truth to it reasonably often. Men might get together and go, yeah, we used to have a great sex life and now my woman's just not really into it. Women don't tend to share that as much. And guys certainly don't say to the friends, well, I'm the one who's not into it. So a lot of open communication, vulnerability, needing to do the work to unpack what maybe for some of us used to be easy and natural. For others, it never was. And now it's not, or it never was. So first of all, I only ever present that kind of plan to a couple, not to an individual. Like I wouldn't work with the higher interest partner and say, yeah, you should tell your partner they need to schedule sex with you. That would be destructive, terrible therapy, and ineffective. But I would work with the couple to get them, if it is right for them, to where the reluctant partner, the low desire partner, examines their own needs, their own values around that, their own desires, especially if they used to enjoy sex, as a lot of my couples did, not all. And it is for them to see if they can journey in a way that's authentic to them without throwing themselves under a proverbial bus, to say, at least conceptually, I'm interested in the idea of us sometimes having an enjoyable and satisfying, both emotionally and physically, sensual encounter. It feels really far away. It's hard to do something you're not really into. And then I gently and firmly say, hang on a minute. How many things in our day do we do that we don't want to do?
Yeah.
Most of them, a lot of them. Right? No offense to you gym rats out there, redhead lady, but I've rarely woken up and gone, yay, I want to go to the gym. I wake up and go, oh, it's gym day. But when I'm in a period where I'm going to the gym, I go because I've made a commitment that it's important to me. I know I might not be that into it on the drive there. And some of the time I might not enjoy the workout because it's extra hard or whatever, but I'm always glad I did it. Now that is not romantic, but it's a good model. In a way you can treat at times moving into a sensual encounter. And I don't feel like it at all. Well, you didn't feel like driving to the gym or putting on your workout clothes and walking into your home gym either. You did it because you chose it because it's important and you're building something that matters to you. So sorry, everybody that hoped I could give you some snake oil to get you horny again. I'm not aware of anything that works. There's a lot you can waste your money on though. But the inner snake oil of who am I? Who do I want to be? What do I value? What would it be? So thought experiment, everybody. What would it be if you could have an enjoyable sexual, sensual life with your partner where there was some desire and there was some interest and it was pleasant or better. And after you felt a little closer or a lot closer, you felt more emotionally connected. It's the only secret special thing we are meant to do with only the person we've chosen. If we're in a chosen sexual, sensual, romantic relationship, partnership, and we're choosing monogamy, this is it. This is our only person. So when we're neglecting it, we're neglecting an aspect of being alive, an aspect of pleasure, an aspect of joy, an aspect of, I would go out and on a limb that I think it's a very sturdy limb. You can feel more spiritually and emotionally connected to your partner after sex or lovemaking than at any other time, some of the time. You can also have a crazy, raw, dark energy. You're the cop that pulled me over and you're going to tell me to get on my knees. Super fun, hot sex fantasy, where after you kind of go, oh, we did that. And that's vulnerable and gorgeous. And that can connect you as well. It is the most difficult thing I work with couples, not counting overt abuse or something like that, but in a reasonably intact couple without any big, awful, terrible things, is how can I feel horny again for my sweetheart? How can I want to have sex? And again, what I do in my program, the 3-month program, is build people toward where they look at the sensuality side of things with some of the skills they've now got of understanding each other, communicating better, lighting each other up. They've been romancing each other better, sharing appreciations with each other, saying, you're great. Thank you so much for doing that today. When I was pooped, you volunteered to take the new puppy for the walk. And that was really kind of you. And we feel closer. We feel more in tune. We've maybe moved back into sharing our hopes and dreams in our life and said, how was your day? Good. How was yours? Good. That has a place sometimes as well. But we're just doing better as a couple, as two adults, as two people, as a family even. And then we can move into this zone. It's such a difficult topic because we want to feel differently than we do if we're having lower desire or more rare desire.
Well, my last question on the libido thing is somebody wrote is what if you don't really? Like one listener said, what's the big deal about not having sex for a phase if neither party is terribly interested and the relationship is fab otherwise? We went through a pretty long phase of no sex and it just wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
So when you say, 40% to 60 or 30 to 40% are not having sex, is that always bad? Or could it just be a part of natural aging and that's fine?
It's a great question. The key to what your listener wrote in was neither of them were bothered by it. I would want to ask more deeply and find out if that was truly the case. I'm going to assume it was in their case, but I hear that a lot, that it's not a big deal. And when I speak to both partners, often one of them's like, well, I would much prefer we were, but I'm okay that we aren't. But if they're both like, it's fine, there is nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong, dysfunctional, screwed up. It doesn't mean your relationship's broken. But I challenge you this. If you did once a month get naked and please each other and offer pleasure and have a bit of fun, would it make your life worse?
Right.
Not for this couple, because we're good. The relationship otherwise is really good. So I'm assuming there's friendship, there's humor. They like going camping. They're a great couple. Would choosing to deliberately make love once a month make it worse? Not from what I'm hearing. It would make it a little bit better. It would be like, damn, we did that. Neither of us felt like it, but we had the date on the calendar and we lay down and we got out the toys and we cuddled and snuggled and laughed a bit. And said, this is where we're not really in the mood. And then gradually the body started to warm up and gradually the turn on started to happen. And gradually there was a turn on. What I believe we went over this in a previous podcast, but it's important to reiterate it here. There are overall 2 types of sexual desire or turn on. One is spontaneous desire, where we're fairly easily turned on. We think about sex, or you kiss me and it feels good, or we're just feeling a bit frisky or horny in our body. And it's pretty easy to feel sexually motivated, sexually turned on. The other is what most of us, in terms of today's conversation, of low desire, because not everybody listening is experiencing that. They're like, I'm good. Lots of spontaneous desire. Enjoy the hell out of it. Appreciate it. It may last you a long time. It may start to fade. And then you're still going to need this second type of desire, which is called responsive desire. Responsive desire. Rosemary Besson is a researcher at University of British Columbia here in Canada, where some of the top research in low desire in women is being done and has been done for decades. And she says the majority of long-term couples start making love from a place of sexual neutrality. What now? What does that mean? It means they start making love when neither of them is turned on at all. Begging the question, well, why would you start making love? Because of everything we talked about today. Because waiting to be turned on, spontaneous desire, of which I used to have loads of, now it's mostly gone. If you don't have loads of that naturally anymore, or never did, you might wait a long time. Spontaneous desire, I often say, if it's mostly left the building, think of it like a teenager spontaneously cleaning out their room. Enjoy the hell of it. If it ever happens, it's great, but don't count on it. So we need the second type, which is responsive desire. Responsive desire is where we start moving into a sensual encounter because we know it's important, because we've scheduled it, because we've made it a commitment, because it's a good idea. Not turned on, not horny. So we might literally just say, let's have a quick shower, nice and fresh and smelling good, hop into the sack naked, laying here, about as turned on as a brick. Okay, this is what we've got right now. What happens if I start, touching you here? What happens if I start whispering sweet nothings or dirty seductions in your ear? What happens if we start kissing? Maybe not a lot right away. I'll be really explicit. I know I'm allowed to. You might just lay there and say, babe, having trouble getting my head in the game, male or female, whoever you are, would you mind going down on me? Would you give me oral sex? I just kind of need to get, focused on my body and start to feel a bit of turn on, a bit of waking up in the body, a bit of horniness starting to occur. Now I'm kind of in rhythm. Now I'm ready to engage more. And again, I'm not a dope. I know that doesn't necessarily sound very romantic, sexy, or fun, but when it gets going, it can be romantic, sexy, and fun. And if we're waiting for spontaneous desire, we may wait a really long time. So to that great question and share you just read out, we went through a period where we didn't make love at all for quite a while, but everything else in the relationship was pretty good. Is it such a big deal? I'm going to say it's not a big deal as in terms of, oh my God, you're doomed and broken. But what would the deal have been if you made more effort just now and then to have a sensual encounter? I think it would have augmented that phase of your relationship. Not made it worse.
I love this. Cheryl, this has been so helpful. I guess I feel the need to sort of summarize for anyone listening who is like, okay, I feel nothing and I don't know why. So then they try the masturbation to figure out if it's a physiological thing. And then they eliminate that. It's not a physiological thing. It's something else. Then I was like, when you suggested kind of scheduling time for sensual encounters, and then I said, but what if that's something else, is that they're pissed, they're not feeling their partner.
Yeah.
And you said we would work on that beforehand. So I guess then masturbation step 1, step 2 is work on the relationship. And
all
then when
of
the
it.
relationship
Complex
is solid,
thing.
then step 3 is start to schedule these sensual encounters really low pressure. Do I
That's what we've covered today in 45 minutes.
I know there's probably so much more.
Yeah, my program's like 20 hours. But you've summarized it beautifully. And then there's a whole bunch more in there. What's the psychology of each person? How did we grow up? Were we shamed around sex? Did we grow up in a culture, a religion, or a household where sex was dirty or bad? Or good girls didn't do it and girls that like sex are sluts? Like what a cultural, all of that. Of course, trauma. Capital T sexual trauma and small t sexual trauma, where you were maybe fell in love, if you're hetero, with a boy and you lost your virginity to him, and then he told the whole school and made fun of you, and down to rape, sexual trauma, sexual abuse. There are so many things that get in the way. The dynamic, this is one that people don't like to hear, but it's important. In a heterosexual dynamic, we may be in a relationship where we love our man, but we don't find him really manly. Like we're more the leader, we're the organizer, we're the kind of detail person. We're kind of metaphorically wearing the pants in the family. We may out-earn our male person. A lot of my friends do. And sometimes that can lead to this really awesome relationship in a friendship dynamic and an enjoyment and a respect and a joy, but not be very sexually charged, which sounds very old-fashioned. And I can feel people judging what I'm saying. Judge it if you like. There's a lot of research and a lot of clinical evidence to indicate that for a lot of pretty powerful, strong, capable women, we kind of just want them to go caveman on our ass now and then. But that's not our day-to-day dynamic. And if you tried it out of the bedroom, we'd say, how dare you, whatever. But in the bedroom, we might be, hey, babe, tell me to get on your knees and suck you off. You dare speak to me like that, non-sexually, like, clean the house now. Like it will not go down. But here, can we make a consensual, joyful, fun, playful, sexy agreement that be the leader a bit? So there's a whole big picture there of people who adore their hubby and they're not all that attracted to him because they sometimes find him to be a little less classically masculine. And I don't mean, brute, asshole, masculine at all, but like a leader, a decision maker, proactive, masculine qualities any of us in any bodies in any psychology can and should inhabit. I hope all beings in the world would have good leadership capabilities, decisiveness, ability to take action when it's necessary, and deep feminine qualities like nurturing, connectivity, creative integration, emotional intelligence and acumen. All of these are important, but it's a tough one, which is he's great. He's the greatest dad. He's such a sweetheart. He does the cooking. I love him. He's solid at work. Just kind of wish ... So this is a tricky area and a beautiful area if couples are ready to explore it, to bring some more what I call dark sexual energy into their life, not just the sweet, gentle lovemaking, but whatever that looks like, acting out a fantasy, going to a fetish club in latex or leather, watching some erotica together, simply just trying different positions or saying, tie me up with that lovely silk scarf you bought me for Christmas. And I am, there's nothing I can do. You get to pleasure me and I can't move. Ways to spice things up and create novelty. Because remember, familiarity isn't very sexy. Novelty is. So how do we two people who might have woken up in the same bed for 30 or 40 years together, couples in my program, some of them have been together 40 years. How do we create spice? And I want to briefly share a story. I have a couple from one of the first times I taught my Become Passion program, the online couples program, and they were in their early 70s at the time. And they tell this in a video testimonial using their own names. So I'm going to be very open because they've given me deep permission to do so. Their names are Norm and ironically Cheryl, spelt the same way as mine. And they took the program and they had not made love in over 30 years. They there'd been multiple affairs in the past, lots of ugly fighting, cohabiting, taking care of the cats, looking fine on the outside. And they found a Facebook ad that brought them to my free masterclass that I hope everybody listening will come to. It's coming up next month in October. And they liked what they saw and they purchased the 3-month program. They worked so hard on all the homework. They had to do a lot of stuff on ugly fighting, contempt, nastiness. They had to do work on the pain of the past with the multiple affairs back when they were in their 30s or 40s together, and so on and so on. And they got to where now they schedule a sensual encounter every 6 days. I've yet to ask them why it's every 6 days, but that's their jam. They became sexual for the first time in 3 decades. And I was talking to them recently on my ongoing, after the 3 months, some people choose to join an ongoing program where we do things like go to Whistler or go to Mexico together and do workshops. It's amazing. And they were talking to me at one of these events. And Cheryl said, for decades, we hadn't seen each other naked. We would both change separately in the walk-in closet at night into our PJs. We slept in the same bed, but we hadn't even seen each other naked. And she said, now we walk around the house naked and slap each other on the ass. Come on. That sounds awesome. Impossible. But that's what the dedication at 70 and 71, I think, when they joined the program, mid-70s now, to saying, I want more. Can we have more? Can we improve this mediocre, parallel lives, pretty unhappy relationship? Let's give it one more go. So I want to give that as a beacon of hope. And there's lots more couples with far less dramatic stories who've also moved from sexless to sensual and from sensual to sexual. And then all of you, the 70% or more, they're like, well, we have sex some of the time. What about better sex? What about enjoying it more? Being more joyful. And I'm not a frequency whore. Like, I don't care if it's once a day, once a week, a couple times a month. It's quality and joyfulness. And there's also some research actually to evidence that as we get older, say in our 40s, 50s, et cetera, one sexual encounter and orgasm and hormone release sort of lasts longer. Like the buzz, the happy chemicals, the yays last longer. And we maybe don't need to have sex the next day or 2 or 3. It's great if you want to, but it doesn't have to be frequent to be spectacular. It doesn't need to be frequent to be meaningful. It doesn't need to be frequent to bring us to this special thing where if you make love and then you go out for brunch with friends, there's just a little twinkle in your eye, a little secret connection between the two of you that feels different. It feels special, Una. It feels like just you and me,
I know so many people listening are probably very inspired by what you just said. Tell them about your workshop that's coming up and how they can participate in what you do.
Yeah, super cool. So I mentioned the 3-month program. I teach it once a year and I teach it live. So meaning when you join, everybody goes through the 3 months together, about a month on each of those 3 sides. It's called the Become Passion program. And I'm kicking off in mid-October this year, 2025. The first lesson will drop. I coach live every other week. You can ask me your questions. It's all confidential. You're not on camera. It's amazing. There's a whole curriculum. And honestly, industry standard, it's the best thing out there. I keep looking for people. I don't know why they haven't created something better yet. I hope they do because the world needs more than just little old me. But it's a great program. But leading up to it, I teach once a year, and these will be around mid-October as well this year. I teach my free passion masterclass. And this is where I really go much more deeply into the passion triangle model. I give some techniques, I give some tools and some things for people to work with. You get a little wee workbook. You can attend it with your partner, and it'll get you having some important conversations. And it will get you thinking about your relationship and looking at it in a new way and saying, you know, babe, where are we strong and where are we weak? So it's a great workshop. They're free. I teach 4 of them, different days and times. I teach them live each time. And people will be able to click wherever they're listening to this wonderful podcast to get on the wait list to be told when those start to enroll. We enroll about 10 days before the first one, as you would well know. And I love teaching it. It's a blast. I stick around at the end and I answer questions, sometimes for up to 2 hours, because people are so hungry for information. They're so hurting. They're so hungry for credible information from an actual, not just, I took a weekend sex course and now I can tell you stuff, but no, 13 years of university and Fulbright and accepted to Harvard and all this stuff and medical school, blah, blah, blah. I know what I'm talking about. So I hope everybody listening will sign up for one of those. As you know, Una, it's more fun and more powerful if you can attend live. But if you can't attend live, we'll send you the replay and you can watch that with your sweetie and have some conversations. And then probably 1 in 50 people who attend the masterclass want to take the 3-month journey. And it's extraordinary. About 800 couples have taken it. And I take no more than 100 couples because I like to get to know the couples and their history and their background and help them as much as I can. So
that's awesome. Well, I will definitely leave all the links. And Cheryl, you're such a fountain of information every time you come on. I love it. And we'll have to have you back because I know people have got even more questions for you next time.
What a joy. We can talk about stuff like ugly fighting. And does it matter if you're mean to each other? And the answer is yes.
Awesome.
Okay,
thank you, Cheryl.
Thanks so much. It's been a delight. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Keep making love intentional. Don't give up.
Well, my friends, every time I talk to Cheryl, I feel like I'd love to ask her a million more questions. And if you feel the same way, or if you have any other topic that you would love to see me explore on the show, send me a voice note using the SpeakPipe link below, or send me a DM on Instagram. And also, dude, if you have a friend who is struggling with low libido, or if you know anyone who is in that 30 to 40% of people in a sexless relationship, and maybe they're feeling a little bit of shame about that, please send them this episode. And hopefully it will make them realize that, as Cheryl said right off the top of the show, it's normal and you are not uniquely broken. Thank you for sharing, and I will see you next week. Hey dude, thanks for listening. If you like this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you can get the next one. And by the way, if you rate and review this podcast, it really helps me get found by other people who need some goals, grit, and some woo-woo shit. And be sure to connect and DM me at Una Duncan on Instagram and let me know what you thought of the episode. Chat soon.